Hello travelers, welcome to my channel today, and today we're going to go back in time. We're going to go visit a place in Wyoming, right outside of Fort Laramie, not to be mistaken with Laramie, but Fort Laramie, Wyoming. And we'll be visiting a place of a state park called Register Cliffs. We're also going to be visiting another place out there called the Oregon Trail Wagon Ruts, where the Oregon Trail and the Mormon Pioneer Trail both cross through that particular area along the Platte River. Hopefully you enjoy this video, and come on and let's go back in time. We'll catch you in a minute. I'm going to be using a lot of voiceover on this video because the wind was so bad while filming and a lot of the voice was very much not heard. So bear with me and hopefully you enjoy this beautiful view with the voiceover. Right now we're in Quartzsite, Arizona, taking a look outside of my camping rig and looking at all the desert bloom. Isn't it pretty? Welcome to Register Cliff State Historical Site. If you want to pause and read this, go for it. This is where we start our journey at Register Cliffs. Behind the fence there is a burial site for pioneers that just didn't make it any further than this. This is a place along the Platte River where they came and they etched their names in these cliffs. A lot of the names on these cliffs are modern names, written in the 1900s and up to date. A lot of people think it's pretty sad, but I think it's kind of interesting because 100 years from now, those folks will be registered here as well. This is a look around at the general area of the state site. The area here is where they would have stopped and had a picnic or maybe spent the night, kind of like a boondocking spot. And that river out there, as you saw, is the Platte River that runs down, and they wanted to stay close to the river so that they could get water for their animals. However, the river caused problems with crossing, and this would have been one of the final stops before going over the hills into the state of California and then on up into Oregon. That was Vinny over there, and we're gonna say hi to Jake here.
Let's go back out. Oh, Jake, say hi. Say hi, Jake. There's Jake saying hi.
I think it's pretty interesting that the pioneers came across the country in their covered wagons or their carts with oxen pulling or horse drawn, and they had to walk clear across this country from the east. Now, as you look forward in this picture here, you see Vinny, and that is my covered wagon. Only Vinny has a motor, and I don't have to walk. Here are some of the names that are carved into the walls. Most of these right here are the more modern names, and there's a big distinction between the modern names and the older names. If you look at these modern names, all the text is the same height. Whether it's lowercase or uppercase, pretty much the text is the same height, and you'll see some graffiti type carvings as well. But when we get over into seeing some of the older names, I'll point out what those look like, and you'll be able to tell the difference. This is K.C. Mitchell, dating 1880. The K and the C are larger than the last name Mitchell. Usually they had the K, the first initial, the second initial, and the third initial larger than the entire name. And that denotes the older carvings from the newer carvings. As I walked down this path, I came around the corner and saw this chain-linked area, and behind it are all the really old names. They are protected, which is absolutely awesome, and the newer modern people cannot go in and carve. But if you look at these, they date really far back. It's kind of hard to see some of them, and as we zoom in, we'll get a better picture of some of these older names. Here we get a really close-up view of some of the names, and if you can see what I was talking about, the larger initials and the smaller rest of the last name. Feel free to pause this at any time and look at some of these pictures and try to read some of these plaques if you want to. Between this fence and this sidewalk is the original trail, and I'm standing there looking over towards the mountains, and that's where they would have gone next. So this would have been a place to rest up and get out of the water they needed, because they didn't know where they were going next. After we saw the Register Cliffs, we went over to the Oregon Trail ruts, and the next few pictures will be of those ruts. Wagon wheels cut solid rock, carving a memorial to empire builders. What manner of men and beasts impelled conveyances, weighing on those grinding wheels? Foremost, nimble mules drawing their carts, came poised mountain men carrying trade goods to a fur fair, the Renaissance. So, in 1830, Bill Subble turns the first wheels from St. Louis to the Rocky Mountains, following his faint trail. A decade later, heavy draft horses drawing wagons for the Oregon pioneers. Trailing the Oregon-bound event were immigrants, and then trailing them were the Mormons digging or dragging or pushing handcarts as they follow Brigham Young to the Valley of Salt Lake. And after 1849, a different stimulus but sharing the same trail urging draft animals, the straining resources often failing, hurrying the gold rush pioneers to California. This was the way west. One of several ways going over the mountains, over to California, into Oregon, into Salt Lake City, Utah. Several different paths came through this one area, hence the deep ruts from the wagons. What I thought was very interesting was contemplating how the first wagon would have come over this rocky terrain. After they had forged their trail and cut the deep ruts, other wagons could follow a lot more easily. Today we have paved roads. We can just cruise along at 45, 50 miles an hour, sometimes even up to 70, and get clear across the country and see everything. It took these people months of walking and dragging their carts and pulling their wagons and carrying everything they owned in a little bitty space. These ruts are only about 4 feet wide. Not very deep. Not very wide at all. Just about 4 feet wide. My van is 7.5 feet, which gives me plenty of living space. Well, thanks for traveling with us today and coming along to see those different places in the state of Wyoming. I hope you enjoyed, and as I always say, follow your heart, embrace your dreams, and cherish your life, and get out there and do something fun today. So until next time, we'll see you later. Bye-bye.